Today in this podcast, we're going to be learning about how students study and what study techniques or habits they tend to use. And later, we're going to be discussing one particular learning strategy. So to get us started, I asked my friends Jessica Searle and Mickey Jones a couple of questions, particularly how they study, what study strategies do they use when studying for an upcoming exam or quiz.
I usually work kind of chronologically through the material that we've covered. Okay. And then especially if it's like a midterm or like a final, I'll do kind of, especially for a final, like keeping that to a final, I'll do like one pass through all the topics in the order that we covered them, find weak spots, and then I'll go back to those and rework those. Okay. Anything that I'm less comfy with than I would like to be. And then that's the big thing. Is just like reworking problems a bunch of times, trying to start from scratch completely and like referencing my notes as little as possible.
When it comes to just rote memorization, so just like straight up definitions, key concepts, I use flashcards. I do like a lot of number association, so like definition 1 and then like the term on the back, or just like what the word is and then the term. When it comes to more like concepts, I just try to reread my notes, or if the professor recorded their lecture, I'll re-listen to the lecture.
Okay, so why am I asking about studying habits and how students are studying? There's a lot of ways to study and a lot of different resources students employ, and some of these can be really helpful and some can actually hinder our learning, and typically these strategies aren't taught to us in school. In fact, a lot of study habits are self-taught through trial and error by students themselves. And while there are many learning strategies, today I'm going to be going to walk through one in particular, interleaving. And so I'm going to discuss what it is and how and when we should be using it. So what exactly is interleaving? This is a study technique in which you take 2 or more topics and mix them up so that you're studying them at the same time. In other words, you are alternating between studying different topics at the same time. So interleaving methods would suggest when studying topics, you would mix them together and study in a pattern of ABC, 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 compared to more traditional blocked methods of a AAA, BBB, CCC. So now that we know what interleaving is, when should we be using interleaving? Interleaving has been found to be most helpful when the type of to-be-learned material is similar. And so when trying to learn stuff that is similar, students tend to get confused and then apply concepts inappropriately or just entirely incorrectly. And so one way to help them differentiate between these topics is by using the approach of interleaving to help actually highlight the differences. So research has begun to show that interleaving is helpful for our learning. So why are students not using it? A big barrier is that they think it's hard. Research surveys show students tend to want to study in a blocked fashion and not mix topics together. And in fact, many within interleaving literature report that mixing topics would be just too confusing. And so again, lots of research being shown that interleaving can be beneficial for our learning. So it's worth it, even though it feels hard to do, to push ourselves to try this method out. And with that being said, something to take into consideration, and obviously a very important caveat, is that there is still ongoing research exploring the extent to which interleaving benefits generalize and extend. For example, there is research that there is a particularly strong interleaving effect when students studying categorical information like paintings and bird species, but there is very little literature exploring the effects of interleaving on expository texts, and relevant to us as students, none that look at key term definitions. So lots of research has been done to show interleaving supporting learning and memory. But as suggested, there's definitely more we need to know about how and when it should be used to optimize learning. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for new information coming out on interleaving and the exploration of its benefits. Thanks for tuning into this podcast.